Good morning, students. Welcome to Business Studies class. Today, let us have a revision on Chapter 8 International Business. Chapter 8 International Business has two parts. First one is International Business 1. Second one is International Business 2. Let's see on International Business 1 important 8 marks question. How international business differs from domestic business. Under domestic business, people or organization from one nation participate in domestic business transaction. People or organization of different countries participate in international business transaction. Second point, various other stakeholders such as suppliers, employees, middlemen, shareholders and partners are usually the citizen of a same country in domestic business, but in international business various other stakeholders such as suppliers, employees, middlemen, shareholders and partners are from different nations. Third point, the degree of mobility of factors of production like labor and capital is relatively more within the domestic country, but in international business the degree of mobility of factors of production like labor and capital across nation is relatively very less. Fourth point, domestic markets are relatively more homogeneous in nature. International markets lack homogeneity due to difference in language, preference, custom, etc. across the market. Business system and practice are relatively more homogeneous within the country, but in international business transaction and practices varies considerably across the countries. And the seventh point is domestic business is subjected to rules, laws and policies, taxation system of single country. International business transactions are subjected to rules, laws and policies and quotas etc. of multi countries. Currency of domestic country is used. Currencies of more than one country is used. Let's see to the next question. Explain the scope of international business. Major forms of business operation that constitute international business are as follows. First point, merchandise exports and imports. Merchandise means goods that are tangible, that is, those that can be seen and touched. When viewed from this perspective, it is clear that while merchandise export means sending tangible goods abroad, merchandise import means bringing tangible goods from a foreign country to one's own country. Second point, service export and import. Service export and import involves trade in intangible. It is because of intangible aspect of service that service is also known as intangible trade. Like you can take it here, a wide variety of services are traded internationally and these include tourism and travel, boarding, hotel and restaurant, and entertainment and recreation, transportation, personalized services and communication, etc. Third point, Licensing and financing. Licensing means permitting another party in a foreign country to produce and sell goods under your trademark, patents, or copyright. In other words, it can also be, we can give example like it is under the licensing system that Pepsi and Coca-Cola are produced and sold over all the world by local bottlers in foreign countries. Let's see what is franchising. Franchising is similar to licensing, but it is term used in connection with the provision of services. There it is of only the product. They are going to give them right like patent right, trademark, copyrights and everything. But here we involve in services. Example, McDonald, for instance, operate fast food restaurant the world over through its franchising system. And the last 4-point scope is foreign investment. Foreign investment is another important form of international business. Foreign investment involves investment of funds abroad in exchange for financial return. Foreign returns can be of two types. One it is of direct and other one it's of portfolio investment. Let's see what is direct. Direct investment takes place when a company directly invests in properties such as plant and machinery in foreign countries. Portfolio investment, on the other hand, is an investment that a company makes into another company by the way of acquiring shares or providing loans to the latter and earns income by the way of dividend or interest on the loans. Let's see what is the next question. Explain the benefits of international business both to nations and firm. They were asked if we are doing international business, what is the benefit it is going to get to the nation and what is the benefit it is going to get to the firm. Benefits to nations are as follows. First point, earning of foreign exchange. Second point, more efficient use of resources. Third one, improving growth prospectus and employment potentials. Fourth one, increase standard of living. And what benefits the firm are getting under that first point, prospectus for higher profits. Second one, increase capacity utilization. Third one, prospectus for growth. Fourth one, way out to intensive competition in domestic market. And let us move on to the next section, that is international business 2. Under this, what and all important questions are there? Explain the steps to be followed in export trade to obtain excise duty. They have asked, explain the steps to be followed in export trade to obtain excise clearance. To obtain that excise clearance, what are all the steps that has to be followed? Various steps are involved. Let's see one by one. First one is receipt of enquiry and sending quotation. The prospective buyer of a product sends an enquiry to different exporters requesting them to send quotation regarding price, quality and terms and condition for export of goods. The exporters send a reply to the enquiry in the form of quotation. That can also be referred as a pro forma invoice. They may ask in 2 marks what is pro forma invoice. Second one, receipt of order are indebted. In case the prospective buyer finds the export price and other terms and condition acceptable, it places an order for the goods to be dispatched. That it is called as indent or order. Third point, assessing importer credit worthiness and securing a guarantee for payment. After the receipt of indent, the exporter makes necessary enquiry about the credit worthiness. So, he makes the importer a letter of credit is a guarantee issued by the importer bank that it will honor payment up to certain amount of a exporter bill to the banker of the exporter. And the fourth point, it is obtaining export license. Having become assured about payment, the exporting firm indicates the steps regarding to compile of export regulation. Export of goods in India is subjected to custom laws which demand that the export firm must have an export license before it proceeds with exports. Before they are going to proceed with the exporting or something, they should obtain the license. And the fifth point, it is obtaining pre-shipping finance. Once a confirmed order and also letter of credit has been received, the exporter approaches his bank for obtaining pre-shipment finance to undertake the export production. And the sixth point is production or procurement of goods. Having obtained the pre-shipment finance from the bank, then the exporter will start its production activity by keeping the finance which he has acquired from the bank. And the seventh one, it is of pre-shipment inspection. The government of India has initiated many steps to ensure that only quality products are exported from India. One such steps is compulsory inspection of certain goods by the agency as designed by the government. And the last step which is under your this question, it is of excise clearance. As per the Central Excise Tariff Act, excise duty is payable on the materials used in manufacturing the goods. The exporter therefore has to apply to the concerned excise commissioner in the region with an invoice. If the excise commissioner is satisfied, he may issue the excise clearance. And the next question is, explain the steps to be followed in export trade after obtaining excise clearance. After obtaining that excise clearance, what are the remaining steps? First steps, obtaining certificate of origin. Some importing countries provide tariff concession or other exemption to the goods coming from a particular country. So these types of certificate has to be obtained from the exporting, so that this certificate can be obtained from the trade consultant located in the exporter country. Next one, reservation of shipping space. The exporter firm applies to the shipping company for provision of shipping space. It has to specify the types of goods to be exported, probably the date of shipment and the portal of destination. And the third one, it is packing and forwarding. The goods are then properly packed and marked with necessary details such as the name and address of the importer from which it has to be sent to the other party. And the fourth one, insurance of goods. The exporter then gets the goods insured with an insurance company to protect against the risk of loss or damage of the goods due to the brilliance of the sea during the transit. While transacting, if anything happens to the goods, so most probably the importer and the exporter, both the parties will take the insurance. And the fifth one, it is custom clearance. The goods must be cleared from the custom before these can be loaded on the ship. For obtaining custom clearance, the exporter prepares the shipping bill. In that shipping bill, 5 copy has to be made along with other document, then submitted to the custom appraiser at a custom house. And the next point, obtaining mate receipt. Let's see what is mate receipt. The goods are loaded on board the ship, for which the mate or the captain of the ship issues mate receipt to the port superintendent. We are loading that particular goods in a particular ship. For that, keeping in that superintendent will issue that mate receipt. The port superintendent, on receipt of portal dues, hand over the mate receipt to the agent. And the next point, payment of freight and assurance of bill of lading. The agent surrenders the mate receipt to the shipping company for computation of freight. Freight is nothing but the charges. After receipt of the freight, the shipping company issues a bill of lading, which serves as an evidence that the shipping company has accepted the goods for carrying to the designated destination. And the last step, it is of preparation of invoice. After sending the goods, an invoice of the dispatch goods is prepared. And the last one in each and everything, it is of securing payment. After the shipment of goods, the exporter informs the importer about the shipment of goods. The importer needs various documents to claim the title of the goods on their arrival at his or her country and getting them custom cleared. And we have seen what are the steps need to be followed for exporting the goods. And we have another important question. It is of explain briefly the steps involved in the import procedure. When we are importing, when we are purchasing goods from other country, what and all the steps to be followed. Under that, first one, trade enquiry. The first thing that the importing firm has to do is to gather information about the countries and the firms which export the given goods or products. The importer can gather such information from the trade directors or trade association and organization. Second one, procurement of import license. Even we should have an import license, so only we can purchase the goods from other country. There are certain goods that can be exported freely, while other needs licensing. The importer need to consult the import and export policy in force to know whether the goods that he or she has to import are subjected to import licensing. In case the goods can be imported only against the license, then the importer needs to procure an import license. If that goods is not under the scheme or something, he have to obtain the license from the government. And the third point, it is obtaining foreign exchange. Since the supplier in the contents of an import transaction resides in the foreign country, then he or she demands payment in the foreign country. The payment in foreign currency involves exchange of Indian currency into foreign country. Suppose I am going to import a goods from the Europe, then they are demanding me to change the currency and give, then I have to exchange Indian currency into euro and send it to them. That is obtaining foreign exchange. And the fourth point is placing order or indent. After obtaining the import license, the importer places an import order or indent with the exporter for supply of specified products. And the fifth point, obtaining letter of credit. If the payment terms agreed between the importer and the overseas supplier is a letter of credit, then the importer should obtain the letter of credit from its bank and forward it to the overseas supplier. And the sixth point, arranging for finance. The importer should make arrangement in advance to pay the exporter on arrival of goods at a portal. And the seventh point, it is receipt of shipping advice. After loading the goods on the vessel, the overseas supplier dispatches the shipment advice to the importer. A shipment advice contains information about the shipment of goods. And the eighth point, it is retirement of import documents. Having shipped the goods, the overseas suppliers prepare a set of documents as per the terms of the contract and the letter of credit and hand is over to the banker for the onward transmission and negotiation to the importer in the manner as specified in the letter of credit. And the ninth point, it is arrival of goods. Goods are shipped by the overseas supplier as per the contract. The person in charge of the carrier informs the officer in charge at a dock or the airport about the arrival of the goods in the importing country. And the last one, it is of custom clearance and release of goods. All the goods imported into India have to pass through the custom clearance. After they cross the Indian border, custom clearance is a somewhat process and calls for completing a number of formalities. They will check whether this goods anything it is harmful for the nature of this containing the activities or anything, and later if does not contains anything and checking various formalities whether they have import license, whether they have cleared doc review and the other formalities and the documents are correct, and then they will clear and hand over the goods to the person who have imported it from the other country. And the last question, it is of explain any 8 measures and schemes that a Indian government has invoked for promoting country's export. Under this, the first point, it is of duty drawback scheme. Once the country they have made a duty for each and everything, they want to promote the export of the country, so they have taken a first measure, it is of a duty drawback scheme. And the second one, it is of export manufacturing under bond scheme. And the third one, it is of exemption from payment of sales taxes. Fourth one, advance license scheme. Fifth one, export promotion capital goods scheme. And the sixth one, export processing zone. Seventh one, export of services. And the eighth one, 100% export oriented zone. These types of measures and schemes has been taken under the government in order to promote the export of the country, mainly to have a good export. We have to export to the other country, so they have provided these schemes which is going to helpful for the exporting the goods from India to the foreign countries. This ends the 8 marks question from all your chapter. um, Thank you students for watching the video.